crafty cuties. Today I wanted to do a little bit of crafting with you and show you how I like to use these vintage linen printables. And I'm pretty sure that I've made a video using similar pieces from Johanna Clothes Etsy shop, but I have some in my shop right now, and so I thought I would just go through and do a little refresher course. So the pack that I am talking about today is these vintage linens. They are actual linens that were scanned and you are able to print them out. You get 2 full pages, and I will show you each piece in this 2-page kit. There's this one. These can be resized. You can print them out on different types of paper, which I'm going to show you in a moment. This is just regular printer paper. I love this one so much, and I almost didn't scan this, but I think it looks so cool. But then I also printed it on vellum, and this is actually one of my favorite ways. It's going to be a little hard to see on camera just because it's, you know, it's so see-through. But we are going to work with one of these today, and here are the other ones. And I just love how realistic these look. So I'll have the link below if you're interested, but otherwise you may be able to get a good idea of how you can use vintage linen printables, because there are plenty of them out there. So I think I'm going to start with my favorite way, which is making a window. And we are going to use this vellum sheet, and I'm going to use the circular one. I think it would also look really cool with this one, but you can use any shape you want. Now I went ahead and I shrunk these down quite a bit from what they were from the original sizes, because I know that most people actually use these in their junk journals, and most pages in a junk journal are not very big. These were pretty big pieces, but keep in mind that you can definitely resize them. You can make them smaller if you want. You can make them bigger, whatever suits your needs. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish cutting that out right there. And like I said, we are going to make a little window. And I'm just going to go ahead and use a piece of paper here that I was going to be putting into a junk journal I'm working on. And so to start out, I'm just going to I'm gonna bring you guys back just a bit. So figure out where you want your window to be. And I'm going to measure from the inside of my page just because I do have pockets here and I wanna make sure that I measure correctly. I'm gonna take a pencil and I'm just lightly going to trace around this so that I can get a good idea of how much I need to cut out. So just, I keep accidentally drawing on my piece, but that's okay. I can erase that afterwards. And I do recommend using a pencil so that you can erase your marks, because we're actually going to be cutting a little inside the actual lines. Okay, just gonna kind of connect that right there. So now we have our guide lightly drawn in, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out, but I want to make this a little bit smaller than what the circle is, because I am going to sew this on. You can also glue it on, but let's just start by, I'm literally just going to poke a hole. You could use an X-Acto knife if that's easier for you, but I just like to do it nice and quick. So you can kind of see here that I'm just going to go up, and so I'm basically leaving kind of a border, and I'm going to try and make this as even as possible. So if you are a perfectionist, you could definitely measure this out and use maybe the circumference of something that is a little bit smaller than the piece, or if you're doing one of the square pieces, same idea. You could do it a little bit smaller than what your actual piece is going to be. So now you can also do this with just like regular printout on printer paper, but the reason that I love this and call it a window is because you can see through, since it is vellum. Now this is a little rough around the edges, so I can clean that up, but I'm just going to kind of measure here and see if I like that. So you can see now it basically it has something to either glue onto or sew onto around there, but you want to make sure that it looks good on both sides. So as you can see, this one has that really pretty design, and so I may have you know, not went far enough to show that, and I would want to make sure that that's all showing. So I'm just going to clean up my lines here, and I'm going to erase my pencil marks because we don't need that anymore. Okay, so we have everything ready to be attached now. So you could use glue if you want. I would be careful using a wet glue on vellum, but maybe you know one that you really like, or you could use a double-sided tape. I'm actually just going to use a teeny little piece of double-sided tape just to hold mine in place. This is something that I always like to do when I am sewing paper to paper when it needs to be like a really precise placing. So I'm just going to use a tiny bit of double-sided tape. You really don't have to do this, but it helps me out, especially when I'm filming, because I am sewing at such an odd angle that things tend to move around a bit. So then carefully place this on and make sure you have it just right. That double-sided tape will really hold that on, so I don't want to have to tear the paper. Okay, there we go. Whoops. And if you wanted, you could put this piece on the outside, whatever you prefer. I sort of like this look for the front of my cover or page, just because I feel like it looks a lot cleaner cut, but it still looks really cool on the inside. So now we will bring this forward a little bit so you guys can kind of see. I am just simply going to sew this around, and so I'm just going to have a very simple stitch for this. Actually, well, I'm going to change my stitch to a stitch that's kind of like a curvy line so that it doesn't have to be so perfect, but choose what is easiest for you. And then since we're going to be sewing in a circle, go really slowly. You really want to make sure that those curves are as nice as you can, you know, make them look. And so I'm just going to change my stitch length to 2, and then since the entire sewing here is circular, like I said, I'm just gonna go pretty darn slow. I want to try to get as close to I can around the edge, trying not to go into the center of that vellum so that we're not sewing it into nothing. And this stitch is going to be visible on the other side, but I am okay with that. Okay, so I just went around once, and I'm going to see how I like that. See, I feel like with that that design, it kind of gives you a lot more room for error, so you have to go, so that you don't have to go super straight. So I'm okay with that as well. I'm not even going to trim my strings because I like that look, but feel free to do whatever you would like. So there we go. There is the first way. I showed you how to make a window. You could even do this with just regular vellum paper. It doesn't have to be, you know, a printed doily. But now let's go ahead and use these printables another way. For the next look, we are going to make a pocket. I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to adhere this pocket to a front inside cover of a journal that I'm working with. Perfect size, so you can see, I think this is a 5.5-inch journal cover. So before we do this one, I'm actually going to take some distress ink. You could use any type of brown ink if you like the vintage look. And I'm actually just going to go around the corners just to make it look even a little bit more realistic. And the thing that I personally love about these printables is that they really look realistic. I do iron them before I scan them, but I don't iron them perfect because I feel like that little bit of wrinkle is what really makes these look realistic. So I'm just gonna not add too much, just a little bit kind of for a shadow. So now there's a couple different ways. Of course, use your favorite method of adhesive, glue, tape. You could sew this one on as well, but since this is my cover, I'm not going to be able to do that. You could punch a little half circle here for a notch if you would like, but I'm kind of thinking about bringing it to the next level and adding some actual lace right to the top of it. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that, and I'm just actually going to use my sewing machine. I know it's a little out of view, but we're not going to sew too much, just this part right here. So I could have glued that on as well, but I like to add any type of sewing detail in that I can. So I'm just going to go ahead now and use double-sided tape. This is my favorite double-sided tape from Joann's, and I think that the brand is it's like Sunshine Co. I always forget, but it's good double-sided tape. So I'm just going to add it to the 3 corners, pretty close to the edge. And then we can stick it on. And we will have a super pretty pocket that looks like an actual piece of linen. So I'm going to just remove the backing here. Okay. And I'll just stick that right where I want it. There we go. And now you have a super cute little pocket. There we go. So for this one, I'm just going to make a little tuck spot on the corner of this white page here. And I think I'm just going to line it up so that it's covering like this whole corner, and then I will trim some. So I'm just going to use my wet glue here and just go right around that corner there, leaving space so that it can be an actual tuck spot. Okay, and you could place this so that you don't have to trim any off. I just thought that would look best for where I'm using it. So I will trim off that excess then. This is probably what I would do if I was using like a real doily on this spot. Or, yeah, I think so. I usually kind of like to corner them off, but whatever you prefer. Just straighten that up a little bit there. There we go. So now you have a cute little tuck spot so that you can put different little tags and things in like so. And of course I did decide to sew that one on, but you don't have to. And here's just one more way that I used a piece to make kind of a little layered embellishment on my vintage library card here. So that I just glued straight on and then layered the little butterfly, and I think it looks really pretty. I'm going to use this one right here. This is one of my favorites. So it's a little bit bigger, as you can see. So this is about, I think, 5¼ inch page. It is a little bit too long to go all the way across this way. However, since you can resize these, you could make it smaller. I think it would make an awesome little pocket. But my idea for this and why I left it bigger was because I was thinking that it would be a really cute little flip out. And so basically I'm just going to lay that down, leaving a little bit of space there. And I'm going to use some cute washi that I have. And I am just simply going to tape that right up to the edge, and then I'm going to open it up like that and add a little bit of washi to the inside just for extra security, like that. Really simple little way. You can hide something away in here like a photo, and then you can do journaling on the back of this. So I love that look right there. And we didn't really even use all of them. These littler ones would make perfect little tuck spots, I think. I mean, there's really so many ideas and different ways that you can use these, but I hope showing you those few different ways will kind of get your brain going. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I love crafting with you guys. I will see you guys later. Bye.